came across an article this week that talks about, it's from Cisco Talos Intelligence, and it talks about a technique that's used by malware campaigns and phishers out there that makes it harder to take down the sites that are used for phishing. And it's kind of an interesting topic. I put it on our Discord server, which you should join, by the way, as well as subscribe to the channel. And Mike and John, I think, don't. Actually, John probably has a good idea about this, but Mike, I'm looking forward to explaining what IPFS is. Just to quickly say, it's the title is the Threat Spotlight: Cyber Criminal Adoption of IPFS for Phishing Malware Campaigns. And it's kind of a fascinating topic. We're going to have a chat about it on today's Not So Critical Update.
Obviously, Peter, I know that IPFS is the InterPlanetary file system, which means that you can store files on Mars or Earth or Venus or anywhere in the galaxy. I'm not an idiot. What do you think it means?
No, thank you for enlightening me, Mike. It's blockchain based. Which
sort of thing.
Sort of, yeah. It has like. There we go. So, I'm not an expert on this. Is that going to go off the screen?
Yeah. I shorten that up.
I'm not an expert on this really, but and I think John may be about to correct me, but when I explain it, basically, once you put something on a blockchain, it's difficult to get rid of it. Because it's one of the things about the blockchain is you don't. It's a ledger. You don't modify something. You put an updated version or what changes. So the adjustment.
You might call that immutable.
Yes, I probably would call it immutable. Thanks, Mr. Thesaurus. But what it means is that once you put a phishing site, if you use a blockchain to put some content available to the web on like the contents of a phishing site, and you use something like an IPFS gateway, which is a website which will allow you access to the IPFS with data stored on IPFS, then you can't really take the website down because it's on a blockchain.
Sort of.
Sort of. Thank you. John, go ahead.
Okay.
Give us a better explanation.
So I'm fairly certain IPFS has been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That can actually be proven right now. Let's see. 2015.
It was designed for interplanetary stuff, by the way.
Let's talk about what it is first. So IPFS is a protocol. And it is a peer-to-peer network storing and sharing data in a distributed file system. So much like blockchain or BitTorrent, the whole idea of IPFS is to host the internet across multiple devices. And the way they do that is by, let's say, if me, Peter, and Mike are the internet, we're going to use IPFS. So Mike has a chunk of this website, and Peter has a chunk of the website, and I have a chunk of the website. So when I go on an IPFS-enabled browser, I'm pretty sure Brave actually is. When I go, it knows, it gets instructions to assemble all the pieces and display the site, right? No matter where they are in the world. IPFS, because of this, is very slow. Everyone's following along so far?
Yeah, I think I got the wrong idea about it then. It's not using blockchain.
No.
Using it, yeah. Okay.
So it's imagine it more like a torrent for the internet. And for you who don't know what I saw someone outside my house. Let me see. Oh, good. Amazon.
Not actual person.
Not a drone, unfortunately. Maybe it's those packages that I've been waiting for 4 years. Anyway, back to the point of IPFS. So IPFS, imagine it like a torrent file. And the way torrent files work is that you get a torrent link, you plug it into your torrent client, and it says, let's look for all the people who are sharing this file, and we're going to grab bits and pieces of the file until we have a complete file that we can then display to the user. This could be Linux ISO, this could be a movie, this could be a game. Any and all sorts of files can be shared through BitTorrent. So if we use that same method with the internet, it's very, very similar. I plug in an IPFS URL into my browser, and it says, let's look at who has access to all the files we need, and then we're going to pull them into the browser and display the web page. Why is this bad in regards to malware and phishing? Because traditionally, I can make a call as a good guy to the hosting provider, AWS, we'll say, and say, hey, you are hosting bad stuff here, and I send them the link. And AWS can go, thank you, and we have taken the link down. You're welcome. Open and shut case. With IPFS, it gets a little bit trickier because these files are hosted everywhere and partitioned or chunked out. So it's really difficult to block access to this. You could block access through DNS or internet service provider level, but it still lives. It still exists on the internet.
So a lot of the attacks they talk about in the story are just like phishing attacks and infected email attachments. Yeah. Is there anything about IPFS that makes these attacks unique, or is it just that they're using IPFS so it makes it harder to block these attacks?
The only uniqueness is the persistence.
Yeah. It's
difficult that they're harder to stop. Down.
And thank you, John, for that excellent explanation. I got it totally mixed up with another thing that I've been thinking of, which was a file system based on blockchain. The resilience is the point here, though. But it works on gateways, so you have to have a site that you go through to be able to access that stuff. Like if you want to view a phishing site in a web browser, you have to use something to access that data in your web browser, because most web browsers don't have native access to IPFS.
To IPFS, yep.
Yeah.
So what's your best protection from this? Is it something on the client? Is it DNS filtering? Is it what? What are your options to protect yourself? Obviously training, to be honest, blah, blah, blah.
To be honest, awareness, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same as all the other ones, really. Yep. There's no difference to protect yourself. So have a layered approach, DNS filtering and the local filtering and awareness, always. But the problem is that with current phishing threats and malware, you can actually take it down at the source. And the only way to really take it down will be to delete it off everybody's computers, which you can't do, or they stop sharing it, which is,
the coordination on that will be very difficult. But I imagine that there is coordination on this, because the same can be said for child exploitation material. They have to have a way to deal with this. I have not delved that deep into IPFS, but I imagine that there are places that people who are hosting IPFS nodes communicate and talk and discuss, and you can then say, let's all agree to delete this, basically. Yeah,
and at the moment, the gateways that exist, there's some which are more responsive than others for takedown requests, so they can filter it at that point at the gateway. But there's other gateways which just don't give a shit. They're all about anonymity and the kind of other concepts that are people associate with BitTorrents, which is freedom of speech and freedom of content and freedom of access to freedom of information.
Does one
so they don't want to take anything down?
Does one need to actively willingly participate in this? Like, if I am an IPFS node, could somebody be using me to do this? Yeah. Or would I have to?
Yeah, they probably are.
Yeah. No. You are indiscriminate allowing. It's just like Tor, right? So how does Tor work? Tor says, I don't give a shit what traffic is whose or what and what it contains. If I'm running a Tor node, exit or entry or both, I will let them pass through. This is a really big reason that people are turned off by running their own Tor exit nodes and entry nodes, because they might get a knock on the door from FBI saying there has been child porn registered on your IP. We are confiscating everything.
But the defense in that is that you're never storing the whole thing, and you're only storing little bits of the data.
But it has still entered your ISP or your internet connection. Sorry.
Yeah.
So if
but the thing is, a few pixels of an image is never going to be the whole image.
Sure,
and you don't know what it is that you're hosting. So
totally.
yeah.
So if I, in principle, support IPFS and want to participate in this, but I don't want my computer to be used for malware or these kinds of attacks, is there anything I can do to protect myself?
I don't know.
Just this. Well, no. Basically, I think that's the answer.
It's the idea of, it's the ultimate double-edged sword. The same idea applies to torrents. You don't know who's grabbing files from you that you're seeding, right? You download a file on a torrent as a torrent.
But you do know what files you're seeding.
Of course, you know what files you're seeding. You do not know who it's going to.
Right. So in this case, can I know that I'm hosting files that are malicious?
I mean,
and stop them from
imagine
going
you can see. I imagine you can see what is being hosted. I don't know that you can control.
No, I don't think it works like that. I think my understanding is that you just host bits of it, right?
Yeah, but you can still see, I imagine, what the source is.
No, it's just all about hashes, isn't it? Like you've got a hash that you advertise, a hash of a fragment that you advertise as having on your computer, and then other people can download that bit from you. And the person with the metadata, the torrent equivalent, the .torrent file that says for this, let's call it, I don't know, John and Mike.txt, the fragments are stored around here, and you know where it is because you have the metadata. But the people who are storing the data themselves don't necessarily have to have that piece of metadata.
That's
In fact,
true.
your metadata could change the file name.
It's
It could
more
just call it,
yeah.
it call it, Mike is the best .txt, and it wouldn't change the data itself. It's just the file name. But you wouldn't know exactly what that piece of metadata says.
So if we have any IPFS experts in the audience, then let us know. Let us know in the comments. Join us on Discord.
If you're still listening, because I'm sure you turned off as soon as I started talking about
it. It was a pretty intense, technically dense episode, I think.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. But anybody who made it this long, absolutely like and subscribe. I think we've earned that much if you made it this far.
We really clawed our way there.